Okay, this is a good time for the final boss might take a while. I'm editor Yusef. There is no final boss, and I'm going to recap all that happened in this game up until this point. Okay, this is the end of World War II. Germany is losing badly, and they're being pushed back into Germany. They made a rocket called the V2 rocket that shoots up into the air, comes down into the ground, and explodes in like 5 minutes. It's a pretty devastating weapon, but it was only pretty much a terror weapon because Germans just are running out of resources. This V2 rocket is pretty much the last thing they have, and it's also a modern marvel of science and technology, the technology of which we're still using today in the space program and stuff like that. All right. The Americans in other countries have started to see the value in the German scientists, and they're all closing in to try and pick up the scientists before they get eradicated, killed, put on trial, stuff like that. So this is called Operation Overcast for America. We're trying to get all of the rocket scientists we can. And while the Americans have gotten most of the rocket scientists, or a lot of them, there's a few left in Berlin, and they're trying to get the rest of them, or keep them from going to the Russians, because obviously we don't want the Russians to have the technology. So for some strange reason, America only sends one lone sniper, Lieutenant Carl Fairburn, to get the rest of the scientists out or shoot them in the face, whichever one is more possible. Mostly shoot them in the face. So the first target, General von Eisenberg, was the head of the team of 5 of the V2 rocket scientists. All right, he's the one who was negotiating with the Russians to try and get this team of 5 out of the city, but that didn't work out so well, did it? Fairburn received intel telling him that Dr. Gunther Kreidel was going through the Schonenberg streets with a convoy with documents that led Carl to the 3 more scientists. So he's thinking this is going to be an early assignment for him. You know, already knock out 4 in like 2 missions, right? So he sets up a bomb booby trap and then blows up the convoy and knocks everybody on their butt. When Dr. Gunther Kreidel comes walking out like, oh my goodness, what happened? That's when Carl shoots him in the face, or more in the chest actually. And then he gets the documents, finds out where the V2 facility is so that he can go and blow that up and kill the scientists inside, right? So then Carl heads to the Mittelwerk facility in order to blow up the rest of the V2 rockets and engines that are in process. You know, so he brings in the charges, he sets them all up in the right places, and then he blows the facility up. But before he can blow it up, he also has that mission to kill the 3 scientists. But when he gets to the main area, the scientists aren't there. They're not in the office. You know, so he tries to find out what's going on. Then he overhears a radio signal that says that Dr. Schweiger, one of the scientists, has defected to the Americans, and they've got him, so they're about to blow his head off, and Carl needs to go and save his ass, like, immediately. But first, let's go ahead and flip the switch on these explosives and blow up the whole facility, right, Carl? So now Carl has to go get Schweiger to save him for the Americans, right? But there's a problem, because in Berlin, the Germans are starting to make their last stand against the Russians. And the Russians are also after these V2 engine scientists, like I said before. So Carl blows up a bridge so that he can facilitate a fight between the Russians and Germans when the Russians were heading straight towards Schweiger. So now it's time to head to Opernplatz, where Carl can save Schweiger. And he gets there just in time because they're about to execute him. Carl shoots the dude about to execute him and saves Schweiger. Although Schweiger, once he gets to Carl, he's already been shot. So much for that. But before Schweiger dies, he tells Carl about Wolf's plan, and then says Tauben, and then dies, because that's the most cliche thing ever in any movie. Mueller was the 4th out of the 5-man crew for the V2 rocket. All right, and he was held up in the Tiergarten command tower, telling people who to bomb, trying to keep the Russians from taking this place over. Carl had a good shot from the flak tower and fought through Russians and Germans to get to that specific spot. But he got there, and guess what? Mueller caught one in the head. Next target. One more V2 scientist left, and that's Wolf. Now, Carl has already tapped every German area he can think of. So the only thing he can think of is that the Russians have him, right? So there's a special operations base that Carl knows of. So he goes to check that out and see if that gives him any information on where Wolf is hiding. Gets to the base, he takes out an officer who's trying to escape, searches the officer, and then finds the information on Wolf and Tauben. You know, the thing that Schweiger was talking about earlier. The Tauben is this nerve gas, and you touch it and look at it, smell it, it just shuts you down. It's this horrible, horrible thing. Because we all know Germans know how to do nerve gas. The whole idea was for Dr. Wolf to fill up the V2 rocket with Tauben and send it to London, and then blame it on the Germans, even though it was a Russian strike. That way the Russians could get at London without taking any of the blame. So instead of going after Wolf right now, Carl decides it's his priority to stop that stupid V2 rocket from hitting the air. Unfortunately, the person that Carl searched didn't have any locations, because this game is not long enough. So Carl needs to go to Wolf's office, his personal office in Berlin, to see if he can find any information. You know, why he didn't go there first, I don't know. But he shows up at the office, and the office has already been ransacked. You know, so in order to figure out what was going on, he uses this old like trick with you know, a notebook. He like kind of colors it with a pencil. It reveals the indentations, so now he knows Wolf's escape plan. So whoop-de-doo, grand detective work to Carl. That was great. Okay, so if Carl doesn't have any information there, then he knows that he can go to the administrative building next door to find some answers. So he goes there, and lo and behold, whoever it is that just ransacked Wolf's office was in the administrative building trying to burn the map that has the V2 rocket site, the last one left. It's very, very weird. Very weird. The person couldn't burn it at the place because I guess he saw the sniper was coming, so he went to the other office to try and burn it. It took him a second to start a fire and throw the paper in there. Why didn't he just eat it or tear it up and throw it around in little bits or something? Whatever. Lo and behold, Carl has the information. So now he knows the escape plan of Wolf, and he also knows how to get to the rocket site. So he heads directly to that rocket site, and he blows up the V2 rocket. Not much to say there. And that's where we end up right here, with him going after Wolf and trying to finish off his whole mission.
Battle of Berlin ended at 8:23 the next morning, May 2nd, 1945, when Commander General Weidling submitted the surrender of German forces to General Chukov of the Red Army. Within a few days, the war ended, but already a new war was beginning, the Cold War, and I was its first soldier.